Hey guys, DibtheAwesome here to give you yet another Monster Legends guide. So I just came to, I just wanted to see what if it was porting or not, and it is. So yeah, hey guys, DibtheAwesome here. Today we are going to talk about Faraday, the Obscure. Now I did say I was going to do both the Earth version and the Dark version, which is right here, the Dark version today. This man excels in DOT damage, and I did say from the get-go, this man basically is the tankier version of the two $30 monsters because he's able to do damage reduction like stuff, like in the form of his DOTs. One's a poison, one's a bleed. They actually set up at the same time. So you do take less damage with this monster, though with the other one you can stun, essentially, so you take no damage at all, but in terms of an overall fight, he would take less damage. He doesn't have the higher base life of the two. This monster has 34,985. Doesn't have the higher base life of the two, but he does soak up the most damage. He just does. His power, 3,663, phenomenally good power. I think this was this not the second highest power in the game. This is fairly high. It's like a truck. Strong DOT setup. I know it's not the highest. Rador actually has the highest power still, with a whopping 3,800 power. Really nice power. But back to this thing. Really decent power. Again, second power in the game. Really, really strong. Especially goes well with his DOTs. To see this man in a fight is just disgusting. This man does so much damage out the years. It's not even funny. It is actually funny though if it's a Voltic. I'm just saying, just straight up the bat. But insane amount of damage, especially single target damage, especially AoE damage. This man does a bunch of damage, and he can do it in so little time if he's fighting against something like a Demise or Voltic or Xylo. He'll just wipe out the entire team, no time, flat. This really good base power. Life, 34,985. We did say this. Really decent life, really good life, really large amount of life, a bunch of life, especially if you rank this man up. I'd imagine, like, if you rank it up to 3, it would have around 50k life, and that's really good. To have that life is really nice. Basically, allows him to build whatever he wants in terms of runes, whatever you want specifically. Really good base stats in terms of life, in terms of power, and in terms of speed. 3,454 speed, phenomenally fast attacker. Really good base stat in terms of a attacker. Though he's not the fastest attacker, though, I do believe that still goes to Mercurius. He is actually the fastest monster in the game, period. But he's more so straight up damage. Right next to Lao Lao. Lao does an absurd amount of damage. It has really strong stat damage. I don't think she had the gospel stat of 3,465, but her base skills could make up for that. In terms of base damage, like 275 damage skills. This is crazy. But back to this. You guys did not come here to learn about Lao Lao today. You came here to learn about Faraday the Obscure. So his trait is the Nemesis Faraday trait. All 3 of these Nemesis monsters have this trait, because it's all the same monster, except 2 of them have different toys. Anticipation. When an enemy performs a skill with an extra turn, Faraday performs an extra turn just before it. So it does exactly that before they can get their next turn in. Bam! He cuts in line. Now you might think this is a cheap skill, you might think this is a dirty trait, but in all honesty, it's fair. It is honestly fair. If you're fighting and like on defense, if the enemy's using a Voltic, this is a fair skill. To deny them of that, completely fair. This cancels out any unfairness. He's there for fair play. If anyone's trying to budge in line, he's like, bam! No, you don't. Deny it. Or you're just gonna get smacked really hard. This one smacks really hard. This thing doesn't have any stuns. It more so just sets up damage. And sometimes the best deny is just straight up killing someone. But yeah, this trait is really good. It also has a 35% less chance of get status effect. This is the best trait in the game. It has the tough, pretty much has the tough trait, and it can pretty much deny any extra turn. It pretty essentially lets you take advantage of other people's extra turns. Really, really strong trait. I do recommend this monster. It's really good. Just that's like one of these monsters. Like any of the 3 Faradays, really good. And it's essential to at least have one. I recommend that. It's just a really good monster. Faraday Dark Whip. This deals insane dark damage to one enemy, applies stun and bleeding to one enemy. So this is actually a deny skill. Okay, so he does, in the form of his ultimate, he does have a single target stun. But that's only when he gets his ultimate. And they're probably going to be dead anyway. This powers 100 base to that single enemy, and it makes them bleed. So odds are, when you use the skill, someone's dead regardless. Unless it's like a Cryotan, or something that's really tanky, like a Tomb or Oros. But you're going to do a lot of damage to them. Period. If you have double damage up, the odds are they're dead. Just because given his high base power, and if you ranked him up, which you should totally rank him up, no problem at all. I don't believe he has anything in skill groups 1 worth mentioning, so we won't talk about any of that. Stamina, Expel, 50 damage skill, spammable, removes 35%. I do believe I talked about this in the Earth video, the Earth version of it. This is a pretty decent skill. All the Faradays have the skill. I will say it's decent. I run it at the moment. I have the option to change it, but I'm one of those guys that is undecisive. Like, do I want another stun skill, or do I want the advanced stamina drain skill? I'm just picky on that, because it's one of those situations where you use it for a while, it's like, or do I just want to keep it? It just seems to be working for me in terms of situations where I've put him in. But odds are I'm totally gonna replace it. Just like the base damage on this isn't all that great compared to his single turn, his 1 turn cooldown special damage, and or just the other 3. Just the other 2 skills in that skill groups 4. Good for if you have the base, just good if you can get ranked up. I would recommend this skill if you don't have it ranked up, but when you rank it up, you should probably change it for something. Some decent skill, it is pretty good. It can get by quite a few monsters in terms of setup. Like things that are trying to set up increased stamina and or just trying to do a bunch of extra turns. Really good skill for that. Shining Agony deals heavy thunder damage to one enemy, applies sunburn to one enemy. The most unflattering skill in terms of a natural, like you would probably, if at least it's runnable, but it's not all that great. I don't recommend this skill. It is a DOT that applies sunburn, it's spammable. I really don't recommend it. There are better options. Somber Strap. This deals heavy dark damage to one enemy, applies poison to one enemy. It's a 1 turn cooldown, 45 damage. Bleed, poison skill. It's not bleed, it's poison. Don't recommend it. There's better skills. Faraday Cage. All the Faradays have the skill. Apply sunburn and stamina leak to one enemy. Oh man, excuse me. Apply sunburn and stamina leak to one enemy. Personally, this is decent. I honestly, it's terrible. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This move is pretty terrible. There's no reason to sugarcoat it or defend it. It's bad. It does no setup damage. It's a stamina leak. It's not worth running. There are better skills. Don't run this skill. It's like running a skill groups 1 skill. This is stuff you'd see in skill groups 1. It's not all that good. Discomforting Bask deals moderate thunder damage to all enemies. Applies sunburn to all enemies. This is a good DOC skill starting out. If you have this at 100, I do recommend running this skill. I run it at the moment. I may or may not change it because it synergizes well with the other DOT I have on it. When you're dealing with extra turn monsters, you will find it beneficial to be running both the AoEs. I've been using Faraday quite a bit, and I've gotten used to applying both DOTs, and it's just absurd to apply both DOTs. You just do, I want to say you do at least. I don't want to say you do double damage. That doesn't sound right. You would do damage that you would be doing if you had double damage on it. I don't know if that's right. But that's what it feels like. I don't know. Sometimes that's what I feel like it's doing. I will say run this if you have it at 100 at the moment, and you have the choice to change it when you have increased levels when you've ranked up quite a bit. Sinister Belt deals massive dark damage to one enemy, applies bleeding to one enemy, and applies poison to one enemy. I will say this, out of like all of the three, this one has the best, rank 3, skill groups 3 skill. It's not even a advanced skill. And he has this for his 3. I will say this is a mandatory move to run on all builds. You should be running this regardless. It's a 1-turn cooldown, 65 damage skill, sets up 2 DOTs, 25 stamina, really resourceful skill. There is no reason why you're not running this skill right now. No defendable reason as to why you're not. It's just a really good burst skill. It's good against earth monsters, good DOTs. Run this skill on all builds. There is no exceptions. You need to run this skill. It's really, really good. Stamina Void, 65 damage, 1-turn cooldown, 25 stamina, deals massive special damage to one enemy, removes 30% of stamina, and applies stamina leak to one enemy. This requires a cooldown 1 turn. Decent damage skill, very decent, very, very good. Especially useful when you have a Voltic alive. If you're just letting Voltic live to keep proccing this, that's 1, well done. And 2, it has a really good skill at that point if you do. Essentially, you'll do so much damage with this, and by the time the other monsters get to move, this essentially kills the other 2 monsters in the Voltic's party. What you can do is to let the Voltic keep attacking, and just do this to the other 2 monsters in your party. Allow every other turn. Obviously, you do another, other move, maybe like your AOE after the first time you use Stamina Void. But essentially, at some point, you can essentially drain the other 2 monsters or just straight up kill them, and then go for Voltic. Odds are, though, you want to kill that Voltic. So you might be able to use this move twice or 3 times, depending on how long the game is, depending on what you're fighting against. But odds are you'll probably use the skill twice or 3 times, and that's totally fine. It's a good skill. Or you might not use it at all, because between the DOT damage, because he does have an AoE form of this in skill groups 4 here, yeah, it's still a lot of damage. The stamina draining thing might not all be that important, because you're just gonna kill them. You're either gonna kill them, or they'll just be able to do like 1 move, and then you're just gonna kill them. That's the extent of that game. Shining Fever, out of all the Faradays, I will say this one takes advantage of this skill the most. It applies 2 forms of DOTs on a single enemy, and it's a 55 damage base skill on a 1-turn cooldown. This is a cryo tank killer. Straight up, if you run Shining Fever and Sinister Belt, you're gonna tear down that cryo tank. If you're fighting an enemy cryo tank, this does so much damage. Like to cryo tanks, to Oroses, to even Gorin, my boy Gorin. If you use this skill on Gorin, on Oros, any mountain monster, they're gonna be drained, man. They're gonna be like, oh my god, what should I do to deserve this? I have so much DOT on me. I'm on fire, bleeding, sick to my stomach. Why am this happening to me? Because of Faraday, my boy. Faraday, in terms of DOT, this one does the best DOT, and essentially you can have four DOTs on one person at once. It's just crazy. I would recommend this skill if you're running this one. Run this skill. There's no reason not to. This plus this equals stupidity beyond words. To do just straight up. Let's see here, 15%, 25%. 50. You do 60%. You do 60% of someone's health. You've killed them in 2 turns. You've honestly killed someone in 2 turns. Like there was no struggle. Like 15%, 25% again. 30. Well, I think that's 50, right? 50s. Oh wait, that's not. Okay, so wait, this might not be 60, but I think this is 50%. 15. No. Oh wait. Oh no. I'm looking at the looking at this again. I keep looking at this as the DOT. So 15. That's 30. So yeah, that's 50. That's 50%. You're still killing them in 2 turns. That's disgusting. No one's gonna live through that after 2 turns of DOT, unless they have shielding or something, remove their whatever they have it. Yeah, the probability of surviving through that, it's not very high. So very good DOT. Do run this skill for this one specifically. You can run it on the other one too if you want. Will not take it as advantage as it more than this one would. This one can totally take advantage of the skill to the max. This is the best potential for this skill. This monster has the best use of this skill. So do use this skill with this monster. Mandatory. Infamous Whip deals very heavy dark damage to all enemies, applies bleeding and poison to all enemies. So basically you have now set 25%, each turn to everyone. That's ridiculous. Imagine pairing this with another DOT that no one's immune to yet, Yeah, besides, stun burn, just if you're just stacking up all these burns and shit, that's a lot of DOTs. that's extremely good. Do run this skill too. Alright, so for this monster, I really wouldn't even bother running Stamina Void. Because this build alone, with Infamous Whip, Shining Fever, Sinister Blade, and Discomforting Bass, you really don't need Stamina Void. You just don't. You don't. Because if you're fighting a Thunder monster, a Thunder tank, you have the Dark skill. You're gonna do special damage, or you're doing not a very effective damage to begin with. And if you're pairing this thing up with something like Elitri, or something that applies Darkness Weakness, you're gonna do effective damage to it. You don't necessarily need Stamina Void. You should just run Discomforting Bass, Sinister Belt, Shining Fever, and Infamous Whips. This is a good setup, because you can apply AoE sunburns after you've done Infamous Whips. Odds are the DOTs, like this, the damage from these two moves alone could probably kill everyone on the enemy team if they're squishy. Absolutely. So you can totally just run this build. Yeah, I will say just straight up run this build. If you have it at 100 for a while, if you can't necessarily get it to rank 2 or 3 to get the pickup. I will say at least rank 10. I think you have to rank it up at least twice to pick up Infamous Whip and Shining Fever at the very least. So until then, if you don't necessarily have that as an option for you yet, I would run Discomforting Bass, I'd run Sinister Belt, Stamina Expel, and see those out of you, honestly, you'd just be using those 3 skills for a while, because the other 3 skills that you would possibly even run on it is irrelevant. So whatever 4th skill you want, and it wouldn't even matter. I'll just say take the Sunburn, just because no one's immune to Sunburn. There are monsters immune to poison. Just take the Sunburn. take the spammable Sunburn skill. Sunburn. That's Sunburn skill. I would recommend that. And that is the build. That is the build for, if you have it at 100. If you have it over 100, if you have it at rank 3 or, above, or just above ranking, if you have it ranked, Infamous Web, Shining Fever, Sinister Belt, Discomforting Bass, that's the build. That's all you need. What partners can you pair up with this man? Anybody. This man, like, all the versions fit with anyone. Any monster in the game. You can pair it up with that. Are you guaranteed success if you pair it up with literally anyone? Well, if you want to be that guy that just says, oh, so if I pair it up with the 2 commons, I'm guaranteed to win, right? There has to be some logic in comps. Just to have one really good guy, I just have to, non-existent party members. Not gonna run too well for you, but you know what I mean. If you're running even if you're not running the current, the highest current meta monsters at the moment, if you're just running a little bit off meta, old school monsters, this man can completely help you out. This monster is, again, really, really good. He can lift most of the game by himself, if you give him the opportunity to. And you're just fighting something like a Voltic or Xyla. I will say, if you lose a game with a Voltic and or Xyla while running this man, unless you're in a situation where you're under level, then that's natural. That's kind of weird, because you should be doing so much damage out the ear that you should be killing the enemy. Especially with this one, there's no excuse. If you're not doing enough damage and you're running this one, there's something wrong with your build setup, my friend. So runes, real quick. You can run anything you want. Extra guy build, team speed. I've heard team speed is the best one, or like a lot of people are recommending just running team speed and run him as like your extra guy monster. I'd think in terms of your base, honestly, if you look at this guy's base stats at rank 3, I think that's fine. You could run him as your extra guy at rank 3. If you wanted to run, team speed, you can. If you want him to be your team splitter, that's totally acceptable. Or, acceptable, not expectable. Acceptable. Extra guy build's also good for him. Damage guy build, also acceptable for him. Anything you want. Here, I got a friend calling me. So, here, you're gonna. You don't have to hang up or anything. You just give me a sec. That is it for this video. As far as I'm concerned, that's all you think you know about Faraday the Obscure. Which one do I think you should get more? I think you should get. The Earth one. I've been enjoying the Earth one. Highly counters Xyla and Voltec. I think that's really good. But if you think you have plenty of monsters that counter that, then you just get the Obscure. He does more in terms of damage. He does do more damage. that is very apparent. He does most damage to everybody. To say which one's the better one, I will say both of them are of equal level. It's like comparing milk to milk. They're both really they're really good brands of milk. And that's all you need to know about Faraday the Obscure. Thank you for joining me on this guide. I'm DibtheAwesome, and I'll talk to you guys later.